Namaste, good morning, and welcome to the Vedanta Society of Greater Houston and our Sunday morning service. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Mritam Gamaya Aviravir Maedhi Rudrayatte Dakshinam Mukham Tena Mam Pahi Nityam Tena Mam Pahi Nityam. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Reach us through and through ourself, O Lord, and protect us evermore from ignorance by thy sweet, compassionate face. Om Vishnurva Tripurantako Bhavatu Va Brahma Surendrotha Bhanurva Shashalakshanota Bhagavan Buddhota Siddhota Va Ragadvesha Visharti Moharahita Sattvanukampodyato Yasarvai Saha Samskrito Gunaganais Tasmai Namah Sarvada. The Supreme Reality and its messengers are known by various names in various traditions. But as for me, I offer my worship always to the one going by any name and belonging to any tradition that is free from attachment and hatred, free from worldliness and delusion, who is filled with compassion towards all living beings, and who is possessed of all noble virtues. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. Om peace, peace, peace be unto us all. So this morning, the topic is self-effort and free will. Self-effort and free will. And so the terms self-effort and free will imply that they're opposites. The opposite of self-effort is surrender or dependence. In religious context, of course, it means dependence on God's will. So self-effort or surrender to God. And then free will, the opposite of free will is determinism, that everything is predetermined, that there is no free will. So surrender and predestination are the opposites of self-effort and free will. And so we'll talk about both, because the two greatest problems in religion are, one, the problem of evil, which is much larger than just questions of sin and virtue and so forth. It's basically the problem for those who believe in a God, a creator God. If God is good, which is part of the usual definition of God, if God is good, how did evil come into the creation of a good God? How did we get the suffering that's so much a part of our life here if God is good? And if God is all-knowing, all-wise, all-loving, etc., how could there be the problem of evil? It seems like God could have, if there is a creator God, God could have made a much better universe than this one. This universe where everything is out of balance. So one of the great problems in religion is the problem of evil. The other great problem in religion, and speaking not of a particular religion, but of religion in general, is the problem of free will versus determinism. Do I have free will to do that which I wish to do? Or is everything already pre-decided? Has everything already been decided by fate, kismet, God, whatever it might be? So these are the two great problems in religion, whether of all types of religion. How did evil come into the world? That is, how did suffering, pain, why do bad things happen to good people? All of these questions are part of the problem of evil. And then the problem of free will versus determinism. And so this last problem, which is what we're discussing today, we're not going to go into the problem of good and evil, but the problem of free will versus determinism, that's a problem also for science and for philosophy. For them, I would say it's not so much a problem, or let me put it this way, it's a problem in the sense of something that has to be figured out. In religion, it's a problem because the answer, so much of religion depends on the answer to the question of whether there's free will or predestination, as I'll show in a moment. But in philosophy and science, who don't have to prove anything, more interested in what is the nature of the universe, it's a problem in the sense of something to be figured out. So modern science has tended to be deterministic. In fact, science at all levels seems to point towards the fact that everything is already determined, that there is no free will. Some scientific thinkers have tried to find in the principles of quantum mechanics, of indeterminism, the fact that you can't measure the position and the velocity of a subatomic particle at the same time. They try to find in that some hope for the idea that maybe there is free will. But that's grasping for straws or grasping for subatomic particles at least. The problem in science is that if we can explain everything by scientific principles, that means there is no free will. And so when you come to the science of psychology, as I've explained on other occasions when this topic comes up, because again, the question of free will and determinism comes up in many different contexts in religion. In modern psychology, if I could know all of the details of your psychology, then when I offer you a choice, I would know what you're going to choose, which means it's not a free choice. We think I'm free because I can choose what I want to do. I can choose to sit here or I can choose to get up. But if I knew all of the factors going on within my mind, I would know which way I'm going to choose. I would know whether I'm going to choose to stand up or whether I'm going to choose to sit down. Even if by a mental exercise, I try to prove the experimenter wrong by thinking I'm going to sit here, and then suddenly I decide to stand up just to show that I'm free. Well, no, that also, if I knew the whole contents of my mind and what all was going on, I would know that that was coming also. And so knowing that there are causes pushing me to make the choices I make, to do the things that I'm doing, means that there is no free will. Everything is already decided. And so in science science is really based on the idea that everything is subject to law. At the physical level, at the mental level, everything is subject to law. Subject to law means that it's not free. It's under conditions. It's part of the chain of causation. A cause leads to an effect, that in turn becomes another cause, which leads to another effect. As Swami Vivekananda says, I take a match and strike it. If the conditions are right, the match has to light. It doesn't have a choice in the matter. It's not free to light or not to light. And so with my choices in life also, I think that I'm free, and that I'll go into more why we have the sense of freedom. But psychology shows that no, I'm not. There are causes making me choose the things that I choose. So science points towards that. And for philosophy, of course, also the question of free will and determinism is an active question discussed by philosophers as well. though the tendency in modern times has been towards determinism because that's what scientific research shows. So why is it a problem in religion? And I say again, in religion, it's a problem in a different sense from what it is in science and philosophy. In science and philosophy, it's just a question of interest. Well, how is it that it works? What is it? I don't have anything invested unless I have bought into a particular philosophy already. I don't have anything invested in whether there is free will or determinism. I just want to know, how does it work? In religion, there's a lot vested in the question. A lot of religious belief and a lot of religious practice vested in whether there is free will or whether everything is determined. So if there is no free will, as science would indicate, then there are two problems for religion. If there is no free will, if everything is determined. One problem is that if everything is determined, it means that we basically are just machines. If I just do what I'm forced to do by past causes, my choices are all predetermined because of the factors that have gone before that lead my mind to choose this thing. And someone who knew the contents of my mind would know that I was going to choose that thing. Then it basically means that I'm a machine. The difference between a living thing and a machine is that the machine does what it has to do according to mechanical laws. And we think of a person as someone who has autonomy, who has the ability to act autonomously, not as a machine. And so if we are machines, then all effort is useless. So that becomes a big problem for religion, which is always telling us what to do and what not to do. If we're machines and everything is determined, then effort is useless. Why do anything if it's already determined? Second problem, if there is no free will, is that there's no moral responsibility. If I do something wrong and I'm just a machine, then what can I do about it? I can't do anything about it. If I killed somebody, well, it wasn't me, it was all of these past causes which led this conglomeration of factors to kill the person. And I have no responsibility in the matter. So that's a big problem for religion. So if there is no free will, there's the problem that I'm a machine and all effort is useless. And the added problem that there's no moral responsibility because I do what I have to do and I don't have any choice in the matter. So morality falls apart. If there is free will, then there are two problems also. So for religion, it's a complex question. If there's no free will, as I just said, there are these two problems of being a machine and losing all moral responsibility. And so then teaching morality is useless. If there is free will, there are two problems there. One was the problem which John Calvin, the founder of Calvinism and the Protestant Reformation, dealt with. He is famous for his doctrine of predestination, which, as he stated, it was a pretty awful doctrine. It states that there are only 100 and something thousand people from the beginning of creation who are going to be saved. And so modern Calvinists don't believe that it's restricted to 100,000 something people when there are billions of people alive right now, 7.5 billion people alive right now, and how many billions have gone before over the last 200,000 years since modern humanity appeared. So his doctrine is very extreme and it doesn't hold up well in modern times. But the basic idea behind his predeterminism, predestination as it's called, is that if God is all-knowing, then God knows from the beginning of creation everything that is going to come in creation and knows who is going to be saved and who is not going to be saved. So, of course, this is all in a Christian context. It doesn't translate too well into Hinduism. But in the Christian context, the idea is if God knows everything, then he knows whether we're going to be saved or whether we're going to be damned. Or in Hindu terms, God knows whether we're going to be liberated or whether we're not going to be liberated. So if there is free will, and we're really free to do what we want, and we're free to carve out our own destiny, it means that God isn't all-knowing, and God isn't all-powerful. God isn't all-knowing because, again, if he already knows, then the outcome is already determined. If he doesn't know, then he's not much of a God. And the associated problem, the second problem associated with the first, is that therefore God is not in control of the universe. We make our own destiny. Why bother about God? And so you see, in religion, this is a major problem, especially, it's a problem in all religions. It's especially a problem for theocentric religions, religions that are God-centric. Hinduism, there are the two together. The theocentric, the God-centric idea for those who follow the path of devotion, and then there's the impersonal side where it's not such a problem. But in the Abrahamic traditions, especially, these loom as huge problems partly because of the idea that there's only one birth. There's the absence of karma, the law of karma. They don't believe in the law of karma. Though nowadays I find many Christians do accept karma, but that's a new thing by the influence of Eastern teaching. But traditionally, Christians didn't accept the idea of karma. They accepted that God is all good, that God created the universe, God is all-knowing, everything is under the control of God, he's all-powerful, all-knowing. Why is the universe such a mess? Why do we live in such a messy universe where there's so many problems, so much suffering? That's what the story of Genesis in the Hebrew Bible is meant to explain, which is accepted by Christians and Jews. And I'm not an expert on Islamic theology. They accept Judaism and Christianity as prior revelations before the coming of Muhammad, but I don't know how they view the story of Adam and Eve. But anyway, in Judaism and Christianity, which I know much better, the story of Adam and Eve is an attempt through mythology to explain how evil came into the world. That is, it came into the world because Adam and Eve didn't obey God. And so in Christianity in particular, more than in Judaism, in Christianity, disobedience based on pride becomes the primary sin. Of all sins, that's the first sin, which all other sins come out of. Now that doesn't translate into Hinduism at all, but it is the idea in Christianity. And so again, this idea of free will and predestination. If there is free will, there are big problems for a religion, especially religions that are theocentric, God-centric. And if there is no free will, there are big problems as well. And so either way you look at it, you've got terrible problems. So let me come now to our experience. I'm going to weave several ideas together and hopefully make some sense out of the different strands as we go along. What is our experience? Our experience is that we are free. We feel that we are free. We have the sense that I'm free. As Swami Vivekananda says, I can't take one breath without the idea of freedom. If I feel that I'm completely bound, then that kills the human spirit. If I feel that there's nothing that I do that matters, I'm just a machine, that's a death to the human spirit. So Swami Vivekananda said that no one can live fatalism. Fatalism, the idea that everything is already determined. And it doesn't matter what you do, the outcome is already determined. If you're meant to fail, you're going to fail. If you're meant to succeed, you're going to succeed. He says that no one can live that philosophy because we have the sense of freedom. We have the sense that we are not machines. I don't know if any of you have heard of B.F. Skinner. He was the father of modern behaviorism, a school of psychology, which basically believes that we and all living things are machines. We're just organic machines that are able to reproduce themselves, but nothing more than that. And so behaviorism is based on the idea that we are nothing but action and reaction machines. An experience comes to me and I react to it. That's all that that's all that I am. A machine that acts and reacts. Reacts to experiences and then acts and causes reactions in others. And my acting itself is based on reactions within me. And so it's nothing more than an action-reaction machine. He himself, in his autobiography, has a very interesting passage where he's speaking to himself, addressing himself, and says, "Why is it I have known for so long, for so many decades, I have understood that I'm nothing but an action-reaction machine, and still I can't get rid of this sense of responsibility, in this sense that there's certain things that I need to do, but I'm just a machine. Why should I have that?" So his own experience belied his philosophy, his idea that I'm just a machine, that if I'm just a machine, then just let me operate. I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to feel bad about anything. Just do whatever I want. His philosophy really is, or his philosophy of psychology of the human being is a terrible philosophy. I don't advise it to anyone, but it has had a tremendous effect on modern society. In one specialized area, it's had a wide effect on education and many other fields. One of the areas it's had a big effect is in the incarceration and the criminal justice system. They're trying to change prisoners' behavior by changing their behavior, trying to change their behavior by manipulation. And so the idea that if I'm just a machine, I can be reprogrammed. So try to reprogram people. But that idea of looking at people and, of course, all other living organisms as just machines, that's contrary to our experience. We have a sense that I'm not a machine. I can program a computer to do all sorts of amazing things, but it's completely dependent on my programming, and the computer doesn't know what it's doing. I can program it to say, "Oh, yes, I do." When I say, "You don't know what you're doing," the computer can be programmed to say, "Oh, yes, I know what I'm doing," but it doesn't. That's something that's programmed into it that it automatically repeats. There's not a consciousness inside the computer that's aware of what's going on. Even in computers and computer systems that have the ability to learn from absorbing data and learning from the data, it's not learning in the sense that we learn. That's why artificial intelligence will never be equivalent to human intelligence. It may be much faster. It may be able to compute things much faster. It may be able to see much more data than we can hold. But it doesn't know what it's doing. Whereas we have a sense, I'm thinking, but I know that I'm thinking. And so we know that we're not machines, and somehow we know that we are free. And why, again, let me bring back what I said before. Swami Vivekananda had said, no one can live as a fatalist. Why? Because life forces us to make decisions. It forces us to make choices. And so I can think, well, I'm just a machine, so I'll just do whatever a machine does. I'm just going to sit here and wait till something happens and I'm going to react and everything. Well, you can't. Life brings problems and you find, no, okay, now I've got to give up this nonsense. I've got to get up and do something. I've got to pay my bills before the police come. Or I've got to pay my bills before they shut off the electricity. I've got to go cook supper because I'm really getting hungry. And so let me just do something and be proactive. So life forces us to act. It doesn't force a lawnmower to cut the grass. It doesn't force a generator to produce electricity. We force the generator to produce electricity. We turn on the lawnmower and cut the grass. So life forces us to make decisions, and so we can't live as if we're just machines just waiting for something to act on me. But we're caught in a contradiction, similar to the contradiction that religions face. Some of the religions face some problems because they have a vested interest in a particular outcome. Other problems because it's inherent in life. So the contradiction that we're faced with in this situation is, I feel that I'm free. I can't act without a sense of freedom. I can sit here and say, well, I'm not free, and wait for something to move me, and it doesn't happen until I finally figure out, okay, I've got to get up and do something. So I have this sense of freedom that I can do. At the same time, I find that I'm bound on all sides, that I'm limited everywhere. And if I look into my own mind, I see that there are causes for every decision that I make that were already there. For instance, I'm sitting here saying I'm a machine, I can't do anything, and I start getting hungry, and I say, okay, give up this nonsense, go cook something. Why did I do that? Because I'm hungry, which is a cause, which is making me get up and go cook something. So we're caught in this contradiction where with every breath we feel I'm free, and with every breath we feel that I'm not free, I'm limited, I'm bound on all sides, limited on all sides. So let me come back for a moment to a Christian teaching on free will and predestination, because they've given a lot of thought to this particular question, theological thought to the question. So part of their thinking is that they wanted to avoid unwanted conclusions. They wanted to avoid unwanted conclusions. And an unwanted conclusion was that God doesn't know everything, and so you are free to carve out your own destiny. So that's an unwanted conclusion. And that's why Calvin came to the conclusion that there is predestination. God already knows everything, and so everything is already decided because he's the creator. He's conceived of everything in his mind. He's created and already knows the conclusion, so everything is already determined. In Roman Catholicism and most schools of Protestantism, they don't accept predeterminism. Why? There's several reasons. For one thing, there's just our experience that I am free. Another reason is, as I explained already, if there is no free will, then I'm not responsible for my moral choices. Further, if I'm just a machine and I'm not responsible, there is no free will, then all of the mandates of the church become meaningless. The church says, oh, you must come to, you must partake of the sacrament, you must do this, you must do that, you must avoid this, you must avoid that. All of that's meaningless if there's no free will, because I'm just acting out of a machine, like a machine. I don't have any choice in the matter. So much of the thought in Christianity was based on this recognition that these ideas, which way you go with these ideas, that they have conclusions. And so because the majority opinion in Christianity was that there is free will, then they persecuted some great saints like Madame Guyon and many others who tended towards something called quietism in Western mysticism, Western spirituality. Quietism means that that everything happens by the will of God, and so I should just depend completely on the will of God. If I depend completely on the will of God, that will lead me to an inner perfection, because everything happens by the will of God. But again, the church wouldn't accept that, because it meant that even bad things happen because of the will of God. And so they persecuted the saints and there were some real saints who followed that path of complete dependence on the will of God. So they were opposed to that idea, because if there is no free will and everything is the will of God, then the church loses all of its authority. It has no further problems, and because morality means nothing then. So adding into this, the experience of those Christian saints that were persecuted, like Madame Guyon, a very great saint who had a non-dualistic experience, who said that she saw as God sees, through the very eye of God. That is, that she experienced the things as God experiences, and through the very eye of God. That is, through the very consciousness of God. So she was indeed a really great saint, one who had attained to a non-dualistic experience. So Saints like that, and many of the Hindu saints, including Sri Ramakrishna, say that in actual fact, there is no free will, that everything happens by the will of God. And many people experience, even long before illumination, along the path, if they develop far enough, they begin to feel that they're being carried forward by the will of God, and that everything is working itself out by the will of God. And so there's the sense that we are free. There's the sense that we are bound. There are problems with the idea of free will. It lands us in problems, and there are problems with the idea of predestination. And yet, there are many saints of all traditions who have said everything happens by the will of God. Even those followers of Advaita Vedanta, non-dualistic Vedanta, like Ramana Maharshi, he often said that everything happens by the will of God. He wrote a short but beautiful letter to his mother after he had left home and gone to Tiruvannamalai, and no one at home knew where he was for some months. Finally, they found out where he was, and of course his mother naturally was distraught that her young son at the age of 16 had left home and disappeared. So he writes to his mother, and the gist of the letter, though it's phrased in beautiful language, but the gist of the letter is that everything happens by the will of God. My coming here is by the will of God. Your being upset is by the will of God. There's nothing to be done but to surrender to the will of God. And so even non-dualistic saints have spoken of the will of God. And then there are other texts in Hinduism, like the Yoga Vaishishta. In fact, the whole yoga tradition, Yoga Vaishishta is part of the Advaita Vedanta tradition, but the yoga tradition, Sankhya tradition, they are based on the idea of free will. Do this, do this, do this, concentrate your mind, follow these instructions. And so it's all based on Purushakara, the idea of self-effort. And then the Yoga Vaishishta, which is a Vedantic text, it says clearly that don't sit around waiting for the will of God or waiting for the will of someone else to move you. Get up, be up and doing, follow the spiritual path, do that which you need to do. And so you see these two teachings in the same tradition in Hinduism, which is typical of Hinduism, because in Hinduism it's a huge container that can contain all types of different perspectives. And so you find this perspective of self-effort and the perspective of dependence on God in the same tradition, and sometimes in the same teacher, like Swami Vivekananda. He would teach both. The need for being active, the need for doing. He told Sharat Chandra Chakravarti once, give up this singing about life is like a water drop on the leaf of a lotus, ready to fall off at any moment. You've had enough of that in this country, speaking to his fellow countrymen in India. You've had enough of that fatalism. Now you must be up and doing. So in Swamiji, you see, he's always stirring people up. He felt that India had, in those days, had learned too well the idea of everything happens by God's will, so just to let it go. And so he was constantly trying to stir people up to activity. In the West, he found that people were so stirred up that they couldn't sit still. So here he tried to calm them down. So his teaching in the two spheres was quite different. So again, in spiritual teaching, you find these, even in Buddhism. Buddhism is a tradition which, by all estimates, emphasizes purushakara, self-effort. You must work out your own salvation. Atma dipo bhava, be a lamp unto yourself, and work out your own salvation, as Buddha said throughout his life of teaching. But even in Buddhism, there are devotional schools in the Far East, in China, Korea, Japan, devotional schools of Buddhism, which that originated in India, but then, of course, it left India and disappeared from India. It wasn't wiped out. That's the usual conclusion, that, well, it was wiped out. No, nobody wiped it out. It was reabsorbed back into Hinduism. But these devotional schools started in India, and then they grew and continued in China, Korea, and Japan, where they developed further. And so in Japan, where they love to deal with paradoxes, they say that one should follow either the path of self-power or the other power. And they would say in the typical Japanese way that self-power and other power are the same. So self-power means self-effort. Other power means depend on the Amida Butsu, which means Amitabha Buddha. In Japanese, Amida Butsu, the Buddha of eternal light, Amitabha Buddha, who he's a mythological Buddha. That is, there's no historical record of him, but he was developed in the Mahayana tradition of Buddhism as a Buddha of long ago, who attained to the enlightenment of a Buddha and made a vow that anyone who repeats my name will be reborn in the Western paradise, which is like Brahmaloka. It's a highly spiritual world where the birds chirp mantras and the sands on the beaches are precious jewels. And so everything is exquisitely beautiful and highly spiritual, and everyone is in a state of meditation. So he made a vow, anyone who chants my name, I will take them to my Western paradise when they die. And so other power means depending on Amida Butsu. In fact, they have an idea similar to some devotional schools in India, that even to repeat the name of Amitabha more than once shows that you don't have faith. If you have real faith, you believe that I've repeated his name once, that's all I need to do. Now he will take me to his Western paradise. And so this idea of other power is dependence on, it's like dependence on God, except for there's a technical difference that the Buddha is not conceived of as God, but he serves the same place as God. So you've got these different ideas of free will and dependence on God. So now let me come to what Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda said. And I want to be brief right now because I have a lengthy passage I want to read from Swamiji, which is very illuminating. Very difficult, I warn you, it's very difficult, but it's very illuminating. So Sri Ramakrishna often said that there is no free will, that free will is a misnomer, that everything happens by the will of God. And again, that's something that many saints, whether they're non-dualistic saints or devotional saints, have experienced with time, that everything just flows, everything is just happening. And all I have to do is to, with an alert mind, just respond appropriately to circumstances. I don't have to create anything. I don't have to change anything. I just have to follow the unfolding of the flower of the universe, because everything is already, the path is already marked out. I just have to walk forward in the faith that which is to happen is going to happen, and that which is needed is going to come to me. And so Sri Ramakrishna used to say there is no free will, but he gave an exception. He said that it's like a cow which is tethered to a stake in the ground with a rope tethering the cow to the stake. So the cow can move around at will in the circle of the tether. But he says that the farmer can extend the rope if he likes and give the cow more room to roam. And if he likes, he can even take off the tether and let the cow go free. And so he said that there is a sphere of freedom. Ramana Maharshi used to say that the sphere of freedom we have is the decision to go back towards God or to go back towards the self. There we have the decision that no, I want to go back. I want to go back to the origin. I want to go back to the realm of true freedom. And so Sri Ramakrishna said there is no real free will, but there is limited. We have a limited sphere of free will. Now, Swami Vivekananda, he of course absorbed all of these teachings from Sri Ramakrishna. Then there was his own realization, and then his way of putting it to the modern world in a way that the modern world could understand and accept. So his presentation of the ideas were more philosophical and more impersonal, because that's the language which is cross-cultural. And so he used to say, Swami Vivekananda would say, that there is in truth no free will because, and that's part of what I'm going to read from one of his lectures, because that which is will is conditioned by so many things. As I said, I sit here and say, well, I'm just a machine, there is no free will, and so I'm not going to do anything. And after several hours of sitting here, I start feeling really hungry, and I say, well, to hell with that, I'm going to go get something to eat because I'm really hungry. I go get something to eat, not because I'm free. I think that that's what I'm doing. I think I'm free, so I'm going to go get something to eat. I decided. Why did I decide? Because my hunger pushed me. So it's hunger which made me get up and go get something to eat. So he said that there is no real free will, but he said we all have the sense of freedom because in truth we are free. But the will is not where we're free. The will is the realm of conditioning, where everything is conditioned, where we have to, where we're pushed around by desires and by actions from the outside, desires from the inside, memories, karma, so many things are pushing us to do the things we do. So the will is not free, but the will is a manifestation of that which is free, that the self is absolutely free. The self is eternally free, completely free. And that is, it's the light of the self which illuminates all of our experience, which carries with it the sense of freedom, so that we always have the sense that I'm free, because we are. We're free here and now. But it's not in willing, it's not in doing, it's not in deciding, it's not in choosing that our freedom is. Our very being is free. It's just that we have become identified with a world which is determined, a world of cause and effect, where everything is determined by the chains of cause and effect. But in truth, I am free. So we have to understand what freedom is. Freedom doesn't mean the freedom to choose. In choosing something, one could always know, as I said, if one knew the contents of my mind, they could know in every case what I'm going to choose, because they would see the things prompting me to choose a certain thing. I think I'm free to choose because there are 2 things there, or 5 things, or 20 things there that I can choose from. But an all-knowing person would see, no, he's going to choose this because of these conditions in his mind. So choosing is not where we're free. Willing to do something is not where we're free. That also is being pushed by so many factors. Freedom lies in existence itself, in being. Our being itself is free, not in doing things, not in having things, not in accomplishing things. We're free by our very nature. And so it's within consciousness when we begin to think of ourselves in terms of consciousness and see that everything that I see is happening within consciousness, but consciousness is the ever-free container. Just as space is completely free, you can put all kinds of things within space. I can divide space with a wall or multiple walls. It doesn't matter to space. The space is unaffected by all of our dividers. Space is unaffected by the wind that blows through it. Space is unaffected by the leaves that the wind blows through the air. And it's unaffected by the air itself. It's unaffected by pollution. Space is pristine. And so the self is pristine. So the closer we come to that, God is free, the self is free, and the self is God. And so our freedom lies in who we are, not in what we do and what we choose. So Swami Vivekananda developed these ideas beautifully. So let me read this passage. And again, I emphasize it's very difficult. I don't expect everybody to get it from this reading. It took me a number of readings and a long time thinking about it to understand it. But it's from his lecture, The Atman, Its Bondage and Freedom. So as I go, I'll explain some of the parts of it to you. so that at least something from a single reading you can get it. And it's not because you're too dumb to get it. I couldn't get it either. I was too dumb too. But it's well worth long study and attention. So the question, he says, is why should we attempt to get out of the world and back to the center, that is, back to the self, back to the truth, back to God? Suppose we have all come from God, but we find this world is pleasurable and nice. We would rather try to enjoy more of it. Why should we try to get out of it? The alpha and omega of Vedanta philosophy is to give up the world. That is the idea with which we started, this lecture. Giving up the unreal and taking to the real. But why should we not turn toward enjoyment rather than away from it? People may say, look at the wonderful improvements going on in the world every day. How much luxury is being manufactured for it. This is very enjoyable. Why should we turn away and strive for something else? So he starts with this idea, why should we go towards God? If I like this universe, why not stay with it? And as I've said on other occasions, you can. If this is what you like, you'll stay here as long as you like it. But a time will come when you find you don't like it so much. It's no longer fun. And then you realize I was struggling for something that, for a promise that was never there. It was a false promise to begin with. So Swamiji, developing that idea, says the answer is this, why we should struggle. That all forms which we are seeing now have been manifested again and again, and the world in which we live has been here many times before. What he means and what he's going to say further, and what I'm going to read, is that everything here that we're experiencing now has been here many, many times before. You will know that it must be so, he says, and the very words that you have been listening to now, you have heard many times before. Swamiji is saying that these words that I'm speaking, you have sat here many times before and heard me say the same words. And many times more it will be the same. Souls were never different. These minds and bodies and words are constantly recurring and dissolving and recurring. This world has been here many times. We are all certain that this world will die, broken to pieces. So again, everything that we're experiencing right now, we've experienced many times before. This world in the same way that it is now has been here many times before. This was an idea which was very repugnant to me for many years. I resisted it very much until I began to see the truth of it. Secondly, we see that these things periodically occur. Suppose here are 3 or 4 dice, and when we throw them, one comes up 5, another 4, another 3, and another 2. If you keep on throwing, there must come times when those very same numbers will recur. Go on throwing, and no matter how long may be the interval, those numbers must come again. It can be mathematically asserted in how many throws they will come again. That's the law of chance. So with souls and their associations. So what he's talking about here is that the elements of creation, the creation has come again and again. There's the projection of the universe into creation, billions and billions of years exists, then it collapses into a seed state. And then again, the elements of creation are thrown into like the dice. They're thrown out and another combination comes back. And then it goes back in, then they're thrown. Eventually, the same combination comes. And through infinite time, there have been an infinite number of times when all of these same people have been sitting here. The same people on the internet have been sitting there. I've been sitting here saying the same words that you're hearing now. However distant may be the periods, the same combinations and dissolutions, all of this will happen again and again. There is only a short rest, and then the same birth, eating and drinking, and then death come round again and again. Some never find anything higher than the enjoyments of the world, but those who want to soar higher find that these enjoyments are never final, are only on the way. Many times I have had these enjoyments. So again, the idea is, why should I go back to the center? Because eventually, until you realize this, don't worry about it. You don't have to think about it. Don't have to think about religion. But a time will come when each of us realizes, I've had enough. I may not know what that means. I may not know how I've had enough, but somehow I feel I don't want this. This is not what I want. I want something better. Along with this matter of throwing dice comes a very interesting question, Swamiji says. That is not the same soul that has these same experiences time after time. This body is one link in the whole chain of samsara, and the chain is composed of many links, each link a form, let us say, beginning from the little worm and ending in man. So let me explain what he's saying here, and then I'll continue reading what he's saying. That all of us, all beings, are like links in a chain. And so before this birth, I was in another form. Before that birth, I was in another form. Once I was a cat. Once I was a dog. Once I was a worm. Once I was a bacterium. There's this chain of evolution where my birth after birth, there's a development. And after coming to the human level, many births in the human level of further and further development. And so that's the chain he's talking about. Each one of us represents a chain. And all of these chains together make up the universe. These links form a circle. And this circle is revolving like the Ferris wheel in Chicago, which Swamiji had seen, the first Ferris wheel, the wheel made by Ferris himself in Chicago in 1893. The carriages of which are in motion all the time, but the occupants are changing. That is, you get in the Ferris wheel, you go around the circle, maybe you go around several times, but then you get out. And someone else goes into the Ferris wheel and they go. So he's comparing the Ferris wheel to the chain of evolution. A man enters a carriage, goes through the circle, and then comes out again. But the wheel still goes round and round. This soul which is now in us goes out. All these forms are permanent cyclically. They revolve, showing all these forms, but you and I must get out. Different souls are riding in this wheel. This is how it can be explained that a man can read the past and future of another man. That is, we are now in the Ferris wheel. We're going life after life as the wheel goes around. A time will come when we've had enough and we succeed in getting out. And then the creation starts over again and someone else enters the carriage, and again it goes through the chain of evolution from being a worm and a cat and a dog, and of course a cat would say that you were a person before and then you become a cat when you get higher. But anyway, we go through the cycle of evolution until again those souls are fed up and they go out. But the Ferris wheel continues. That is, this universe continues through age after age of creation and destruction, creation and destruction, creation and destruction. This idea is not expressed clearly anywhere in the Hindu scriptures, but it's assumed in the Hindu scriptures. For instance, in the Adhyatma Ramayana, there's a discussion at the time of Rama's being banished to the forest by Kaikeyi. Then Rama is telling Sita that I must go to the forest. You will stay here and be taken care of. And Sita says, no, I'm going where you go. And he said, no, you can't go. It'll be very difficult. I have to spend so many years out in the forest and deprivation and everything. You must stay here. Everyone will take care of you. And I'm going. No, I'm going. So they argue back and forth in the Adhyatma Ramayana. And she giving reasons why she has to follow him, and Rama telling her reasons why she should stay. And finally, Sita says, have you seen in any recension of the Ramayana where Sita does not follow you? So I'm going because it's already written in the Ramayana. So that's a humorous way of telling it, but the idea is that the same Ramayana has been here kalpa after kalpa, period of creation after period of creation. Rama has been here, Sita has been here, and we have been here. Some of you, perhaps, he goes on, have seen how the past and future can be read. How can one read the past and future? Here we get the explanation. The most astonishing powers of reading the past and future have been known in every country and every age. As soon as you enter the Ferris wheel, it can be written down precisely where you will go. But when you come out, no more can be said, because then you're free. But once you are in, you are bound, and everything goes according to the law. And where you will go can be predicted within the wheel. As soon as you enter the carriage, you are no more free, because then you're carried by the wheel. And so when we enter into the universe, we're no more free. We're being carried forward by the will of nature, as it were, or the will of God, if you conceive of it as God. But the chain of causation is carrying us forward until we decide, no, I want to get out. Then we get out, and then we are free once we are established back in our divine nature. So whosoever has come into this wheel of nature, for him to talk of freedom is nonsense. It cannot be. The law of causation rules us, and when we see that it is the law of causation, what can we do? Then he brings up the question that I was talking about, and this, let me mention, or one reason I wanted to read this is that this is not included in the complete works. I found this in the original transcript made by Goodwin, J.J. Goodwin, when he took down by stenography the Swamiji's lectures. Some editor along the way, or when it was first published, decided, I don't know why, decided to leave this out, but this is the key to the whole thing. They left out the most important part, because it explains why we should do something. Why, if everything is determined, then why should I do anything, as I said. The law of causation rules us, and when we see that it is the law of causation, what can we do? Why preach religion? And why struggle to do something higher and all that? That is, why try to be a good person? Why try to be moral? Why do spiritual practice if everything is just the law of causation? Give up. Just let it push you forward, because it's going to anyway. That may be a natural question, but it is wrong, because it takes for granted that one is being bound by law and another is not. If you say, why do you preach religion to us? I answer, because I too am bound by laws and have to work under laws, as I am doing. You see, for Swamiji, he had attained to freedom, and yet Sri Ramakrishna drew a veil over his mind by the power of Mother Kali, as he said, so that he would do the mother's work. And Swamiji fought against that. Swamiji said he hated the Mother Kali and everything that she represented. He came to love the Mother Kali and saw that he was working out her will. But he who had attained to freedom, and he who had come from a realm of freedom at the call of Sri Ramakrishna, found now that he was bound, that it was Sri Ramakrishna who was speaking through him to the world. Holy Mother herself said that she saw that it was Sri Ramakrishna who was speaking through him. And so he came to America with so many problems that he had here. There's even an attempt on his life. There are places where people threw stones at him. A place here in Texas where cowboys shot at him. And the missionaries tortured him, tried to destroy his reputation. His own fellow Indians in this country tried to destroy him also. And so many problems he went through. A man who had realized infinite freedom, and yet he found himself caught within the wheel of causation, working out the Divine Mother's plans, having been told that until you finish your work, you can't go back to your realm of freedom. And so he says, why should you sit here and listen to me if there's no use to anything? And why should I be here teaching? Because I too am bound by laws. I'm doing this because I'm being pushed to do it. The relation does not, and this is the part that's really hard to understand. The relation does not change if we are all in the same situation. We're all within this law of causation. We're all in the same boat, as it were. We are all in this room. My distance from you is about 4 feet. So Swamiji was in a small room where the audience was very close to him. My distance from this was one of his Jnana Yoga classes in January 1896 in New York City. If this room moves, the distance between us would not change. So say the temple here were suddenly to be, if it were on wheels and it were moved somewhere else, we would all be in the same position here. That is to say, we are both changed by the moving of this room, but the relation between us does not change. So there will still be 4 feet between us, the same 4 feet. If we are all bound, the relation will not change. So that, again, this is the hard part to understand, that we're all in this together. We're all bound. We're all being pushed forward by the chain of causation. But the relations between us, because we're all in the same situation, remains the same. And so he says, a thief is brought before a magistrate, and the thief says, "Why should you punish me? It was by the laws of nature that I was forced to steal. It was not I." The magistrate replies, "The same laws of nature compel me to punish you, my friend." So that is, we're all being pushed forward together. And so if we can realize that everything is happening by the divine will, then we can relax in that. But until we feel that, we can't, because we relax into what? There's nothing to relax into. We all see, okay, now it's time, I've got to go work in the garden. And then after that, I've got to go to the store to get something. And then after that, I've got to fix supper. And then after that, I've got to read something. So I go about my life doing the things that I do as I did before. But now I know that the freedom that we all seek and the freedom which we all feel that we're free, that the seed of that is not here, is not within the realm of causation. Let me seek freedom within God. Or if I follow the path of knowledge, let me seek freedom within the self. So what is the motive power of all of our actions? Desire, thirst. I think I'm free because I get up and go fix myself something to eat. But no, I'm pushed to do that by hunger. We desire, we want something, and we are struggling to fulfill that want. So long as there is desire or want, it is a sure sign that there is imperfection. I want something because I don't have it. I'm imperfect without it. A perfect free being cannot have any desire. So if I realize my free and perfect nature, then I'm free in that. What are the times when you have felt the most free? Was it when you were in the grocery store looking at the boxed cereal, rows of boxed cereal with 100 different varieties of cereal you can choose from? Is that when you felt the most free? Or did you feel the most free when you were just sitting with no responsibility, nothing that you had to do, just looking out on an expansive scenery? Maybe you're out in the country, or you're on vacation, or you're at the ocean or something, and you just look out and you just feel, oh, it's so wonderful just to sit here and just to feel the big expanse. There's nothing pushing me to do anything, nobody calling me on the telephone, nobody telling me what to do, no boss sending me instructions that I have to take care of right now. I'm just free to be here, just to be here and to relax. That's when we feel free. It's not when we're facing endless choices to make. So a perfect free being cannot have any desire. God cannot want anything. If he desires, he cannot be God. He will be imperfect. So all the talk about God desiring this and that and becoming angry and pleased with people is baby's talk, but means nothing. Neither shall we desire when we are perfect, for the very fact of desiring shows imperfection. Therefore, it has been taught by all teachers, desire nothing. Give up all desires and be perfectly satisfied. What shall you desire? So there he's paraphrasing from the beginning of the Isha Upanishad. So again, we find that the idea here is that we have a sense of freedom. And this I'll conclude with these last words of trying to tie things together. We have a sense of freedom, and yet we recognize that we are bound. We've recognized that we've been pushed about by everything in nature. And so first we have to recognize that my freedom doesn't lie in choosing. Nature forces me to choose, and so I'm going to choose. I have to choose, and I usually don't know what I'm going to choose. Again, if somebody could see all the contents of my mind, they would know what I'm going to choose, but I can't see all the contents of my mind. And so a choice comes to me, and I don't know what to choose. And so I choose something, and perhaps I feel like I'm choosing it blindly. But that's not where my freedom is. I have to choose And yet my choices I'm pushed into my choices, and yet I have the sense of freedom. And so I have to learn to dwell on the sense of freedom, but to recognize that that sense of freedom doesn't come from the will, it doesn't come from choices. Again, no one's going to take your choices away from you. Even if you try to get away from choices, nature is going to throw choices at you. So you have to make them. But that's not where my freedom is. My freedom is in being. And the more I can bring quiet to my mind, the more I can bring contentment into my mind, the more I begin to feel freedom. That's why I've said in different ways on different occasions in other lectures that all of these ideas are not, should never be taken as the sages want you to do this, or God wants you to do this, God doesn't like this, or the sages don't like that, the sages want you. No, it's not. No, it's not that anybody wants you to do anything. You do what you want. If you don't want religion, that's fine. Don't pay attention to it. Nobody should be forced into religion. But if you want your own good, if you want what is good for you, learn to quiet the mind. Learn to simplify your desires. You can't just say, I'm not going to desire anything, because the next moment you start feeling hungry and start thinking about which restaurant am I going to go to tonight. Let's see, last night it was Chinese. I think today it'll be Ethiopian. I haven't had Ethiopian for a long time. And in Houston, you can find anything. It's one of the great food centers of the world, Houston. People even from Austin drive to Houston just to get the best restaurants. So yes, you're going to do that, but learn to quiet the mind, learn to simplify your desires. Don't try to eradicate desire, because that doesn't work that way. Desire goes when you get something higher, and then you think, why should I want that? I've got this. So just simplify your desires, learn to calm your mind, learn to be content within yourself. And then you'll find that your quality of experience is far, far higher. So these things are taught because it's good for you, it's good for me. It's not, if you don't want to follow any of it, no one should force it down your throat. It's because it's good for us. It's where we will find the greatest fulfillment. So if we want higher fulfillment, if we come to a point where, no, this isn't enough, I've had enough of this, I want something higher, then the sages tell us where to look for that which is higher. So freedom of will and predestination. Yes, there's no real freedom of will, because the will itself is bound. The will is part of the chain of causation. It's caught in, or it arises within the world of causation. But that which is behind the will, which is pure consciousness, which is our true being, and which is the nature of God, which is the nature of the infinite. Infinite meaning where there are no limitations, which means complete freedom. Freedom is limitation. The infinite is the absence of limitation. There we're perfectly free. So the will is not free. Things here are determined. But let me add in one other idea, and then I will conclude. And that is the Christian idea of predetermination. There's a problem with that. Hinduism doesn't accept that idea, because the Christian idea of predetermination that John Calvin taught takes God in a very anthropomorphic sense. That God imagined the universe into being, and he knew where everybody was going to be. And so God has he's created all of us to be sitting in this hall right now, and he created, that is, God is a busybody who's devising plans for everyone. It's not like that. He said this universe comes into being according to the laws of Prakriti. And God is, everything happens according to God's will in a very mysterious way. Sri Krishna explains in the Gita that everything happens according to my will, but I do nothing. That is, everything happens according to God's will in a very strange way, where God is free of everything and free of all activity. God is not doing things, And yet you find behind everything that everything is a manifestation of God, and everything is happening according to God's will, not in our human sense that, okay, I want you to go here, okay, I want you to turn right, I want him to turn left, I want him to stand up, I want her to sit down, etc. No, God's will doesn't mean that. It's that everything is a manifestation of God. And we find that it's the flowering of the divine being that is the universe. And in that way, everything is the will of God. So with that, I will close. Let me give announcements, and then if there are any questions, I will take questions. So announcements: on Tuesday, we will have the Mundaka Upanishad class at 7:30, live streamed and in person, as you like. On Thursday, thank you. On Thursday, we'll have the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna class at 11 o'clock in the morning, live streamed, as well as you can be physically present. And next Sunday, I think I'm speaking on meditation, right? No, Lakshmi, the goddess Lakshmi, part of the Gods and Goddesses series, where I look at different Hindu deities, look at the history of their revelation, their emergence, their worship, traditions around them, etc. So the worship of or the goddess Lakshmi next week. And then the main announcement for now is that on April 1st, Swami Swahananda is coming. that was from a previous universe. It would be difficult for Swami Swahananda to come. Swami Sarvadevananda is coming on April 1st, which is a Friday. And so Friday, we're sending out a flyer about his program. So Friday evening, there will be a program where he will speak. There'll be a satsang. And then Saturday morning, he will give mantra diksha to those who want, but that has to be arranged long in advance with me. There's still time if anyone wants it, but that does have to be arranged in advance by talking to me. And then Saturday, late afternoon, he will give another talk. And by that time, Swami Atmarupananda from Washington, D.C. will be here, and Mataji Brahmaprana will be here from Dallas. And they also will speak, and Swami Sarvadevananda will speak Saturday late afternoon. And then Sunday, we will not have April 3rd, we will not have the program here, which we normally do. We will have the program in Trinity at the new retreat property. It'll be the formal inauguration, beginning at 11 o'clock with worship, and then there will be bhajans, and there'll be, we're hoping that there will be a dance recital and short talks. It's not going to be a time for lectures, but short talks, maybe a guided meditation, a tour of the property, telling people about the future plans for the property. So we hope as many people from around and about as possible can come. So now for questions. So first, Swapna. So the question for those of you who are listening online is if everything in our life happens according to past karma, and karma is the law of causation. So if everything is happening according to karma, when did that process start? Say for any individual like myself, when was my first birth when everything started? Now, Vedanta says that that's one of the unanswerables, because as far as you look back, you'll find that there was something preceding it. And why is that? That's because you were looking at the Ferris wheel. And so if each car has a car before it. And then you say, well, what was there before that? You'll find that there's a car before that. Well, before that, where's the car before that? Once you come into the realm of manifestation, once you come into the Ferris wheel, you find that it's endless. There's no beginning and no end. You can step out of it. But once you're in it, if you look backwards, you just see it go. You just see this endless chain going back and back. So there's no way of finding, when did I enter into this? How did I become identified with it? Because you're asking, how did I, who am unlimited and eternally free and infinite, become bound? Well, if you're free and infinite, you didn't become bound. So once somehow there was a mistake in our perception. And then we see this universe, Once we see this universe, we find that there's no beginning. So that can't be answered. So now another question. Is the sign of a prayer to Sri Ramakrishna being heard that the mind stays happy for the rest of the day? Okay, I see. Is that the sign that a prayer to Sri Ramakrishna is being heard, that the mind remains happy the rest of the day? So that can be a sign. And maybe just you feel happy for other reasons. But if you feel that there's not another external reason, but you feel that the prayer to Sri Ramakrishna, that's something that you can tell more internally. And so yes, it could well be. If you feel a connection, that could be the connection. And so let me take another audience question. Okay. Yes, that's a very good question. So the question, again, for the internet audience is that if we're supposed to try to be desireless or to simplify our desires and to be content within ourselves and so forth, to find peace, but life in the world oftentimes demands investment. We have to invest ourselves in things to get along, and that's very true. So Swami Vivekananda used to say that we have to develop both the power of detachment, but also we have to develop the power of attachment. That is, I have to develop the power to be able to put my mind where I want to put it with the full force of my mind, and let it stay there as long as I need to keep it. But when I want to, I need to have the power to detach it. So he says that detachment doesn't mean being like the wall. The wall is perfectly detached. It doesn't care whether we all live or die. It doesn't care whether it's destroyed or not. It's just a dead, dull, insentient wall that is perfectly detached. We don't want the detachment of death. We want the detachment which comes, the power to withdraw the mind when I need to. But concomitantly, I need the power to put my mind where I want it to be as long as I need to keep it there. Yes, Karma Yoga, Swami Brahmananda over here, he said that Karma Yoga demands that we have deep respect for the work that we do. So Karma Yoga doesn't mean, who cares, just get it done. Just be unattached to the results. Just hoy jabe, as they say in Bengali, let it go, just get it over with. Swami Ranganathananda used to say, one of our presidents of our order, used to say, as long as this hoy jabe philosophy remains, that's Bengali, meaning ho jayega. That as long as we have this hoy jabe philosophy, India will never progress. So we have to be able to invest the mind, and if we're karma yogis, we have to respect the work, but be able to detach the mind at a moment's notice. So didn't Thakur say to Dr. Sarkar that the cow example might be that from some Western English book? Oh, three together. Personal opinion on absolute determinism, how to reconcile it. No, that's not together. It's the same person, but it's not the, what's your personal opinion on absolute determinism? Yeah, but that's not the same question. It's the same person, it continues. So didn't Thakur say to Dr. Sarkar that the cow example might be from some Western English book? I don't remember that ever happening. I don't know, but Thakur used it for his own purposes. He used that many times. I don't remember anything about that coming from an English book. I never heard that. Thakur used it as his example. Where he got it, I don't know. What's your personal opinion on absolute determinism? How to reconcile absolute determinism with Brahmananda telling disciple, if sadhana is not practiced, then what's supposed to happen may not happen. So yes, as I said, we can't, no one can live as a perfect fatalist. That is, with the idea that everything is determined, so I can't do anything. I can learn to depend on God, but that is different. If I learn to depend on God, at first I do it in imagination. I have to act because nature demands it. I have to act all of the time. I can't just sit here and wait for something to happen. Life doesn't work that way. I won't be able to sit here and wait for something to happen. I have to act. But depending on God means I begin by thinking, "Oh Lord," or "Oh Divine Mother, you please guide me. I have this choice in front of me. I have to do something. I don't know what to do. You please guide my choice." And feeling that let me do what I have to do, but trying to feel the will of God moving me. And gradually a time comes when we actually, it'll happen for a short time at first, once in a great while, and then it becomes more often, where you actually feel that God is guiding circumstances and guiding our movements, guiding our actions. Absolute determinism. We can't live according to that until we begin to feel that it's God's will. And when we feel that it's God's will, we feel that that is something which is loving and which is calling us forward. It's moving us towards the divine being itself. And so it's not the same as feeling that I'm caught in this deterministic mechanical universe where everything happens no matter what and who cared, without any caring or anything. So it's quite different from feeling that the universe is perfectly deterministic. So yes, the universe does follow the law of causation. So the other part of the question, what about practicing sadhana, if we don't practice sadhana? Ramana Maharshi again said that where you have free will is in the turning the mind back towards God. And when you do that, you begin to practice sadhana. Sadhana also is governed by the law of causation. But I have to do something. And so when it comes time to hunger, I don't think, well, it's all determinism, so why should I feed myself? If everything is determined, I'm not going to feed myself. No, I think, well, I'm going to go get something to eat. And so with sadhana, when it comes time, I want to move towards God because I know that that's where my freedom lies. I shouldn't think at that time, well, everything's determined, so why should I do it? Because I'm going to go get something to eat. I'm going to go turn on the television. I'm going to do all kinds of things. It's just when it comes to sadhana that I'm not going to do that. No, that's taking me towards freedom. And so I have a strong desire to perform sadhana. That's a sign that we're beginning to move back towards our realm of freedom. So again, this doesn't mean this idea that everything happens according to the law of causation, and we're all caught within this Ferris wheel. This doesn't mean that I give up all action. That's why Swamiji gave the example of the room, where our relationship remains the same. And so I still act as I would before. It's just that now I do it more aware that there are things that are guiding my action, that things are unfolding. I don't have to make things happen. But when it comes to sadhana, then when I begin to feel the longing for God or for the self, then nothing will hold me back from practicing sadhana. So Swami Turiyananda went back to India even when Devi herself appeared before him asking him not to go back. So a little confused. Yes, naturally, we're all confused by that, not just you. What he's referring to is Swami Turiyananda was sent to America by Swami Vivekananda. He was working in San Francisco. But then suddenly he had there were big problems that came up in San Francisco when he was there. There was sort of some of the American peoples, a group of the American people who were running the San Francisco Center. They started doing whatever they wanted to without even consulting Swami Turiyananda. And so Swami Turiyananda, first of all, was shocked at the betrayal because he was out at Chanti Ashram where they started taking things in a different direction, that they didn't even consult with him. So he wanted to go back to India and consult with Swamiji. And then the Divine Mother appeared to him in a vision and said, don't go back. If you stay here, and she showed him, if you stay here, then all of these disciples will come to you. So many things will happen. So many good things will happen. Don't return. And Swami Turiyananda said, no, I must go see Swamiji. And he said that in the vision, when he said, no, I must go see Swamiji, Swami Vivekananda, the Divine Mother looked very displeased. And so he did. He came back. And on the way, by the time he got to Burma, on the way to Calcutta, he got news that Swamiji had passed away. So he never saw Swamiji. And later he said that I suffered from so much illness because I didn't listen to the Divine Mother. So yes, that is confusing, but we can only understand it in the sense that Swamiji says about the whole thing is part of a chain of causation. And so when the thief says to the magistrate that, why are you punishing me? I just did what I was moved to do by the law of causation. And the judge says, well, I'm just moved to do what the law of causation is causing me to do, and so I sentence you to 5 years in prison. That's also part of the same thing. Swamiji says, well, why do I, Swami Vivekananda, why do I come and speak to you all here if we're just machines? Because I too am part of the law of causation. So all of that works together. It's all part of the divine play. It's a beautiful idea once we begin to understand the inner sense of it, that this whole universe is a play. Play both in the sense that it's the child's play, which has no purpose, it's just for fun, and also a play in the sense of a jatra, a play, a drama. That is also a drama. And all of these things are happening. Swami Turiyananda and his denying the Divine Mother's will. So if the Divine Mother's the Divine Mother, couldn't she have forced him? No, that's all part of the same process. It's all part of the same drama, her drama. So yes, it's difficult to understand. And therefore, the best thing to do is to look at it as a drama and enjoy it. The only solution seems to be, name of the Vivekananda reading, that's easy. It's in the Atman, Its Bondage and Freedom, one of his lectures found in volume 2. But part of what I read is not included in that. Hopefully it will be one of these days if the work I did in India ever comes out. So the only solution seems to be non-duality, for then I am awakening to and attuning to my true self, which is all, as opposed to being coerced into a slavish surrender to a powerful other. The above is a question, albeit phrased as a statement. Yes, and it is a good statement and a good question in the form of a question. So yes, if you want an understanding which is clear and simple, there's nothing simpler than the Advaita, the non-dualistic position. That's the great beauty of it, is that it's just simple truth, that you are the self. And all you have to do is to turn back to the self, hold to the self, and everything becomes clear. So that's the beauty of Advaita. And there, the problem of good and evil, the problem of free will and predestination, all of that falls apart. All of it is part of the same thing. But there's also beauty in the other idea, because the Divine Mother or the Divine Other or the Divine Being, God as Kali or Krishna or Rama or Ramakrishna or Shiva or Vishnu or the Abrahamic God, Allah, that God also is true. And that God is the same reality. That is the same reality in relationship to this universe. Brahman is, there is no universe in Brahman. Brahman alone is in its own glory. But as long as we see this universe, we will see the play of the Divine Mother. So both are true. So choose according to that which makes the most sense to you. Both are good. So we've gone on for an extra half an hour, but these were all good questions, and it was a difficult talk. I know parts of it were difficult, so I thought it better to clarify as many questions as possible. So with that, I will give the closing chant. Om madhuvatartayate madhuksharanti sindhavaha madhvirna santoshadhi Madhunaktamuto shasi madhumat parthivagum rajaha madhudyaurastu pita madhumando vanaspatir madhumagumastu suryaha madhvirgavo bhavantunaha. Om Madhu, Om Madhu, Om Madhu. For us who seek the truth, and for all living beings, may the winds blow sweetly, may the rivers flow sweetly, may the herbs yield us sweetness. Sweet be the night and the break of day, sweet be the very dust of the earth. May the heavens pour down sweetness upon us. May the trees, lords of the forest, bear us sweetness. May the sun shed its sweetness upon us. May all the directions pour forth sweetness. Om, sweetness, sweetness, sweetness.